Every generation believes it stands on the edge of knowing everything there is to know. We have mapped distant galaxies, sent robots to Mars, built satellites capable of reading a license plate from hundreds of kilometers above the Earth. Yet there are still places on this planet that refuse to surrender their secrets, not because we haven't searched, because every answer uncovers an even bigger mystery. One has swallowed ships, aircraft, and more than 1,000 lives. Yet no explanation has ever satisfied everyone. One hides beneath water so dark that a diver can lose sight of their own hand within seconds. One stretches across an entire desert in drawings so vast that their creators could never truly admire them. And one stood silently for 5,000 years, until a discovery made in 2024 forced archaeologists to question everything they thought they knew. These aren't legends. They aren't Hollywood stories. They are real places. Places where history, science, and mystery collide. And despite everything we've learned, they still refuse to close. Welcome back to Mind Marvel Wonder. Tonight, begin a journey to 4 places that continue to challenge everything we think we know. If forgotten history, hidden places, and mysteries that science still can't fully explain fascinate you, you're in exactly the right place. Subscribe and join us every week as we uncover the world's most extraordinary unanswered questions. Our journey begins far out in the Atlantic Ocean. A place that has become one of the greatest mysteries of the modern age. Imagine setting out on an ordinary journey. The weather seems calm. Your instruments appear normal. The destination is routine. Then, without warning, you disappear. No distress call. No wreckage. No survivors. Just silence. For more than 2 centuries, stories like these have turned one region of the Atlantic Ocean into a legend. Known as the Bermuda Triangle, it stretches between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, covering nearly 500,000 square miles of open water. Every year, millions of people cross this region safely, which makes the disappearances that have occurred here even more unsettling. The most famous case is Flight 19. On the afternoon of December 5th, 1945, 5 U.S. Navy Avenger bombers departed from Florida on what should have been a routine navigation exercise. The pilots were experienced. The route was familiar. Nothing suggested anything unusual. Then the radio transmissions began to change. One pilot reported that his compass no longer made sense. Another believed they had somehow become completely lost. As daylight faded, confusion turned into desperation. The final radio messages became weaker. Then nothing. The 5 bombers were never seen again. The aircraft sent to search for them disappeared as well. For decades, Flight 19 became the story everyone remembered. But it wasn't the Triangle's greatest tragedy. That title belongs to a ship almost nobody talks about today. In March 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive 542-foot naval cargo ship carrying 306 crew and passengers, sailed into these waters. It never reached its destination. There was no distress signal, no confirmed storm, no enemy attack, no wreckage. Even today, nobody knows exactly what happened. More than a century later, it remains the single largest non-combat loss of life in US naval history, without a confirmed explanation. Of course, scientists have never claimed that supernatural forces are at work here. The Gulf Stream is one of the most powerful ocean currents on Earth. A small piece of floating wreckage can be carried hundreds of kilometers away, in only a matter of days. Violent storms can develop with astonishing speed. Towering rogue waves have also been recorded in the Atlantic. Natural explanations certainly exist, but then comes one detail that keeps the legend alive. The Bermuda Triangle lies close to one of the rare places on Earth where true north and magnetic north briefly become one. Normally, navigators must correct their compass for the difference between the two. But in this region, that correction suddenly changes. A crew unfamiliar with the local conditions could slowly drift off course, while believing their instruments were perfectly accurate. The compass isn't broken, it's telling the truth, just not the truth the navigator expects. Centuries before Flight 19, Christopher Columbus wrote in his journal that his compass behaved strangely while crossing these same waters. He also described mysterious lights appearing over the sea. Coincidence? Perhaps. After all, the United States Coast Guard has never recognized the Bermuda Triangle as uniquely more dangerous than other heavily traveled waters. Yet, one curious detail refuses to disappear. Some marine insurance underwriters have historically treated voyages through this region differently, quietly acknowledging the area's unusual reputation. Perhaps every disappearance has a perfectly rational explanation, or perhaps they don't. But after more than 200 years, the Atlantic Ocean is still not talking. If the Atlantic hides its mysteries beneath endless waves, our next mystery hides beneath something far quieter. A lake, silent, cold, and so dark that even modern technology struggles to see what lies below. Welcome to Loch Ness. Stretching through the Scottish Highlands, Loch Ness is unlike almost any other lake on Earth. It contains more fresh water than every lake in England and Wales combined. At its deepest point, it plunges beyond 230 meters, more than 750 feet. A building 15 stories high could disappear beneath its surface, and still not reach the bottom. But depth isn't what makes this place extraordinary. Darkness does. The surrounding hills have fed peat into the loch for thousands of years. That peat stains the water almost black. Sunlight barely penetrates below the surface. Within just a few feet, visibility disappears completely. A diver can lose sight of their own hand. Even sophisticated sonar systems often struggle to distinguish solid rock from moving objects. And that is where the legend begins. Stories of an unknown creature living here stretch back more than 1,500 years. The earliest account dates to the 6th century, when an Irish monk named St. Columba was said to have encountered a terrifying beast in the River Ness. Whether history or folklore, the story survived. Then, in 1933, everything changed. A new road had just been built along the shoreline, giving thousands of people their first clear view across the loch. Suddenly, reports of strange sightings exploded. Long necks, dark humps, something enormous moving through the water. The following year produced perhaps the most famous photograph in cryptozoology, a grainy black and white image showing what appeared to be a long neck rising from the surface. The surgeon's photograph. For decades, millions accepted it as proof. Then, 60 years later, the illusion collapsed. In 1994, one of the men behind the photograph confessed before his death. The mysterious creature had been nothing more than a toy submarine fitted with a carefully sculpted head. One of history's greatest hoaxes had finally been exposed. Case closed. Except it wasn't, because something unexpected happened. The sightings continued, hundreds of them, even after the world's most famous photograph had been exposed as fake. Today, the official Loch Ness Sightings Register contains well over 1,100 reports from visitors, locals, and experienced observers. Most sightings are almost certainly mistakes, floating logs, unusual waves, large fish, optical illusions. Yet not every report has been easily dismissed. In 1987, Operation Deep Scan brought together 24 boats equipped with sonar. Moving side by side across the loch, they carried out the most comprehensive search ever attempted. Several unusually large underwater echoes were detected. None could be positively identified. Science kept searching. Then came one of the most ambitious investigations yet. Instead of searching for the creature, scientists searched for its DNA. In 2019, researchers collected hundreds of water samples from throughout the loch. The results ruled out giant reptiles. There was no evidence of a surviving prehistoric sea reptile. But the study revealed something nobody expected. The loch contained an unusually high concentration of eDNA, enough for some scientists to suggest an entirely different possibility. Perhaps generations of witnesses weren't seeing prehistoric reptiles at all, but exceptionally large European eels. It's an elegant theory. The problem? Nobody has ever found one large enough to explain every sighting. And that's what makes Loch Ness so fascinating. Every investigation seems to remove one mystery, only to create another. Perhaps there is no monster. Perhaps there never was. Or perhaps the greatest mystery isn't what's hiding beneath the water. It's why, after centuries of searching, the loch still refuses to give us a definitive answer. But one thing is certain. Our search for answers is far from over, because somewhere else, an entire desert is covered with gigantic drawings that no one was ever meant to see from the ground. And an ancient monument that stood silently for 5,000 years has just forced scientists to rewrite history. 2 more places, 2 more investigations, 2 more mysteries that science still can't completely explain. The investigation continues in the next episode. Subscribe to Mind Marvel Wonder and stay curious, because somewhere the next great discovery is already waiting.